Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way morning briefing live. The magic mic's working, so I'm told. I'm joined today by Ryan McGinlay at the Ryan McGinlay on the Twitter handle. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle. This is a Celtic Way morning briefing live. It's Wednesday, June the 21st. Good morning, Ryan. How are you? You still smiling? That skin graft, no be able to get that smile off your Chevy Chase.
Yeah, I'm still smiling, still buzzing about the announcement, buzzing about the Scotland result last night as well. Albeit I was waiting for ages for that to get started again. A bit of a late finish for guys that want to be in their bed early. It totally mucked up my my sleeping schedule, you could say. But yeah, I'm just glad that Scotland got the 3 points. Callum McGregor played a starring role again. Scored the goal before it all gets stopped for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. But yeah, delighted that Scotland get the win on the board, and still delighted that Brendan Rodgers is our manager.
He did indeed. Callum McGregor had a phenomenal role to play last night in Scotland's win. 4 out of 4. I think it's the first time Scotland have ever started any campaign with 4 wins on the spin. So big up to Stevie Clarke, big up to Callum McGregor for the role he played. Cracking goal he scored as well. No doubt we'll talk about that. But good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are we all doing? Is it still a wonderful Wednesday where you are? Certainly a wonderful Wednesday where I am. And I've just directed your attention to the ticker tape running along the bottom. You subscribe to the Celtic Way website and help support top quality football journalism covering the club you love. Myself, Ryan, and Aidan McDonald will try to provide that. All for the click of a button, guys. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. How are we today? Brendan Rodgers is the Celtic manager, and now, Ryan, we go on to talk about when he does get to work. That was his phrase at the bottom of his statement the other day. Let's get to work. And now we're wondering who's he going to bring in. Key areas that Brendan Rodgers must recruit in during the summer transfer window. Now, what do you think, Ryan? What are the key areas for yourself? First and foremost.
Well, the thing is, I think he's quite lucky with regards to the fact that he's got a strong team to work with.
Yeah.
From the get-go. It's a treble winning team. It's a team that has won everything possible in Scotland last season. We get strength and depth in a lot of areas as well. I wouldn't say you could make wholesale changes to the team, because we've seen that at the end of the season that we can't make 7, 8, 9 changes. So that might be something that he looks into. But I think there are some positions that we could improve. We could improve on going into next season. Obviously, there'll be players that are more suited to Postecoglou's system that will have to be sort of ushered out, and maybe more traditional players will have to come in. But I would argue that some of those players are already at the club. It's just you might see a wee switch around in the formation and the personnel that play more games. You look at guys like Haksabanovic, he's maybe more of a traditional winger. Number 10, you look at the left backs. I know Greg Taylor had a stellar season, but I just think Brendan Rodgers will want a more traditional, robust left winger or left back next season. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I think there's a number of positions that he will try to improve in, but that's the beauty of it. It seems as if he's been promised £30 million, £35 million, around about that ballpark. So he could do some serious damage with that money in Scotland at least, and then in Europe. So yeah, I just want to see him back, and it looks as if he will be getting back this summer.
We'll start from the very starting position, Ryan. Does Celtic need a new goalkeeper?
Would agree with that, yeah. I think they do. I think for long-term contingency plans, you do. Joe Hart is 36 years old at this point now. So we would need to be planning anyway. You don't want to be in a situation like Rangers where they had a 41-year-old goalkeeper and they didn't know what to do with him. They didn't have a long-term success, so they've had to go out and get a goalkeeper in the summer. I want us to be more proactive when it comes to that search for a goalkeeper. Ideally, if we could maybe use Mark Lawwell's sort of contacts and get a South American goalkeeper before the likes of Benfica, Porto, Sporting Lisbon, or Sporting Club, they come in and get them. I just think if we can get a young goalkeeper, that's the thing. A young goalkeeper doesn't even need to be 20 years old. He could be 24, 25, because the age range for a goalkeeper is completely different. They last until they're 41, 42. You've seen that for a lot of goalkeepers. So if you can still grab them relatively young with a bit of experience in their game, then the world's your oyster with regards to playing out from the back. I don't think Rodgers will be as content with playing from the back Postecoglou wanted to be. He really wanted to start the play. I know, and maybe Rodgers has changed his sort of tactics since he went down south, but he won't place that much of an importance as Postecoglou would have. So as long as they're able to play out from the back, but not to like a high level, then I think we should be okay. But we should be striving for the best sort of goalkeeper, and every goalkeeper's expected to do that nowadays. So let's aim for the stars with regard to a goalkeeper, a young goalkeeper.
Before everybody starts shouting about the fact he signed Doris de Vries the last time he was here, Ryan, we'll just let that one go by. But Paul Byrne, morning Paul, how you doing? We need a goalkeeper, but don't let Rodgers choose, please. Jason Lee says goalkeeper's not in his position we need to think about. Lots of other comments coming in about a goalkeeper. Welsh Cortland coming in. Definitely a new goalkeeper needed. We keep Taylor though, Ryan.
So
He's saying, yeah, well, definitely, yeah. Jerry Smith, go for Angus Gunn. He's a good goalkeeper. Angus Gunn, does he impress you? Yeah.
He impressed me in the past. I think his distributions impressed me as well for Scotland. It seems as if the defenders. I've not really watched too much of him for Norwich City because he was in the Championship. I watched more of the Premier League's sort of football. So yeah, in the couple of games that I've watched him for Scotland, he's looked quite assured. He's not really had too much to do with regards to saves, point blank saves, but he passes the initial eye test. I just don't know how much Norwich would want for a goalkeeper like him. It seems as if he's their number one, so they would maybe want double figures when it comes to a transfer fee. So, I mean, Celtic won't need to spend that much to get a competent goalkeeper. I think we've had our hands burnt before with regards to Barkas because he cost $5 million and he was a total flop. But there's good goalkeepers out there for a decent price. So we need to just scout these goalkeepers and then bring them in for a decent price.
Beach Boys is saying plays Seagreast. Hopefully he can prove his fitness and maybe feature more prominently, Ryan, next season.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one with Seagreast because even though he was injured for that period of time, he was fit. He was in the training videos or the training photos, but he wasn't making any match day squads. So I was wondering if there was maybe a fallout that happened behind the scenes at the club or something had happened because he was getting in most of the benches until the Sydney Super Cup, and then it seemed as if after the World Cup break, he wasn't anywhere quoted. It was Scott Bain that was taking that number 2 position. But yeah, with a new manager and a clean slate, he'll obviously get time to prove his worth to the new manager, Brendan Rodgers. It'll be interesting to see if he can stake a claim in the first team.
Now, for me, Ryan, and I'm going to say, I think we still need improvement in the spine of the team. I would take another central defender as well, because you saw what happened when Carter-Vickers got injured at the end of the season there. Lots of juries still out on Kobayashi. Starfelt, I think everybody's pretty happy with Starfelt. He's pretty solid, but he still gets a bad rap at times for the odd kind of, concentration lapse et al. But I still think we need another centre back, and also moving in a kind of central midfield. I'd like to see a strong, robust Wanyama type in there for a bit of height and a bit of solidity. I don't know your thoughts on that, but that's kind of where I'm headed with that. A new goalkeeper, a new centre back, and a centre midfielder, a big centre midfielder, competitive centre midfielder, because we need a bit of height. I still think we lack a bit of height and aggression in the team, and I'm not saying that we go and sign somebody who would get football stopped. I'm talking about somebody a bit more robust, a bit like Lambert, who can also play a bit of football as well. Wanyama, who could play football, gave you a bit of height, a bit of brute strength when you needed it. So I'm inclined to think that my priority would be goalkeeper, central midfielder, and goalkeeper, centre back, and central midfielder. That's my thoughts on that. Who they are, I'll leave that up to Matt Law and the scouting department, Ryan.
Yeah, I think with regards to the comments you're making about like an all-action central midfielder, if he was within our price range, a player like Scott McTominay, I think would do wonders for this team because he's tall, but he's good on the ball as well. I thought he was brilliant last night again for Scotland. I know we've been linked a couple of times in the past, but I think he's now out with our price range. I know that Newcastle have been linked with him, a couple of other Premier League teams. I don't think he'll want to come up north, apart from when he's playing international games, which is entirely his prerogative. I mean, he'll see his future down south. If he can get a move to Newcastle, then that would be good news for him. But somebody like that, somebody that's tall, but all action as well, can play a pass. It can pass it to maybe the more talented players further forward would be ideal. But these players are out there. It's just Mark Lawwell and Brendan Rodgers and the rest of the scouting team need to find them and find them for a good price. Because yes, I do want us breaking the transfer record this summer on maybe a designated player, but I don't want us breaking the bank for the sake of it. If we're bringing a player in, then they have to be worth the money that we pay for them.
Yeah, Brown Warrior coming in reminding me Barcelona destroys Europe with a midfielder, Munchkins, Tony. Yes, I'm not saying it can't happen, but Xavi's and Iniestas of this world are hard to come by, aren't they, Ryan? They're hard to come by at a club like Celtic. Yes, indeed they are. And they were wonderful footballers. I'm not denying that, and I'm not denying that it can be done. But I just want to see somebody big in that Celtic midfield. I'd feel a wee bit more confident in that moving forward. But yeah, I mean, McTominay, I was going to come to him, but has he just out with Celtic's price range? But is he a person of interest, Ian? Should Rodgers ask the question and see where he's at? And then Brown Warrior coming in and saying he would take Billy Gilmour in a heartbeat. Again, try that again. Billy Gilmour's a wonderfully talented footballer, as you saw last night. And you can't get enough good footballers in your team, Ryan. I've said that before, so. But yeah, I want somebody big and powerful in that midfield. That's all. Somebody else commented a Roy Aitken type. Yeah, something like that. I think it was Jerry. I was trying to find the comment, but Jerry or a Roy Aitken type. Yeah, somebody like that who's not afraid to mix it when you need to. And I think this season, lots of teams will want to mix it with Celtic. That's my point moving forward. That because you hear of stories about Celtic being given a £30 million budget, there'll be teams saying, "Is that right? Let's get stuck into them," as they say, Ryan, and will play physical and robust against you, and you'll have to match that challenge at times. That's my thinking. I know Rodgers isn't daft, and he'll know that himself. Danny Boy coming in saying, "Agree, Tony. We need height there." So yeah, Robert gives. When you go this far, Robert, a ball playing thug in central midfield is card. No, I give you the first sentiment in that, a ball playing central midfielder who's got a bit of height and a bit of aggression. The word thug doesn't enter my football vocabulary, Ryan. I'm a purist, or I like to think I'm a purist, but I know what he means. Just somebody that can maybe put the boot in when required if needed. And it's that kind of game. But I just think sometimes you're going to have to fight fire with fire this season, yeah?
Yeah. I think enforcer would probably be the better word.
Yes, enforcer's a better word, yes.
I always like an enforcer in my team in that holding midfield role. Who's to say that we don't already have it in Iwata, to be honest? Because, at the end of the day, it's Brendan Rodgers that will be picking the team, and he'll be gauging the players that he's got in the team already. Who knows? Even Matt O'Reilly could drop back a wee bit and play deeper in the central midfield. They already done that last season when he was in McGregor's place when he was out injured for a couple of games or about a month or so. Yeah, it's an interesting one because we do have such a strong midfield, and you would say if we're going to sign players, then other players would need to leave. But like you said, there's a lot. It's such a strong position with regards to the midfield that you can't get too many good players, is what you were saying, and I totally agree with that. There's just so many players that could get in the team, and yeah, as long as we get the right players in that team, then I'm sure we'll be fine in the midfield. But I think we do need a midfield enforcer. If it is a Waka, then that would be absolutely brilliant. But if there is a better player out there, then Rodgers should go and sign them.
Welsh Courtland, laugh out loud, a Ronnie Cray type. Don't remember Ronnie Cray playing football, but I think it's a reference to your old dad here looking like Ronnie Cray with the glasses and all that kind of stuff. But trade roll, as they say. Yes, Ryan's forwards, are we well stocked in the forward department? Lots of wingers, 2 central forwards in Kyogo and are we assuming that they're both staying? Are we assuming that even all the midfielders are staying? Lots of links with Hatate and Kyogo, obviously, with Ange 2 and 2 making 4 or 5. People saying that you'll come back and try and raid Celtic for that. Should we be expecting that? Is that something we should brace ourselves for? Will there be movement in that sense away from Celtic in the summer? Is that just natural?
I hope not, because Kyogo's been such a good player over the last 2 years and always just started at the club, so I wouldn't expect him to go anywhere unless Brendan Rodgers really didn't fancy him. I'd be worried if like a loan deal was to come for considering the fact he's came into the team and he's only been there 6 months. I would see more of a loan deal maybe happening for Kobayashi this summer with regards to the January recruits. I think Iwata's too old for a loan deal as well, so he'll be in and around the squad, sort of staking his claim in the team. These are players that can improve under Rodgers as well and take them to the next level. I think that's what we've talked about before. These players will be desperate to play under Rodgers because they can improve as individuals. He's improved so many players since he's been a manager. There's been examples at Liverpool, there's been examples at Celtic and then at Leicester as well. So he's got that track record of improving players, particularly attacking midfielders, I would say as well. You look at Maddison, you look at O'Reilly, or potentially could be O'Reilly, Maddison. I'm trying to think of other names. Stuart Armstrong as well was sort of utilised as an attacking midfielder. But in terms of striking, if it is going to be any time that Kyogo leaves for big money, it will be this summer, unfortunately. I just think with regards to his age, he's 28, he's in the absolute prime of his career. It seems as if once you hit 29 and you're a striker, you'll lose all your value. I don't know if that's the sort of football manager element of things coming into play, but it's if he is going to leave, it'd be this summer for big money. And for me, it was so important under Postecoglou because he was the cornerstone of the team. You know, he was going to start the press from the front and he would score goals. He'd be the main goal getter for a Postecoglou team. We don't know where he sort of fits in with Rodgers' team. Now, it's great that we still have the same backroom staff, so you're hoping that too much won't change with regards to the way that we play, but it's all about what the manager thinks at the end of the day. If the manager, I'm sure the manager would fancy him to play up front, but he might have other ideas about who would be the number 2, or he might see a young striker coming through and the sort of the same sort of profile as Dembele or whatever that he can nurture. So it will be interesting to see who he plays in that position up front. But if you're Celtic, you'll be looking to get Kyogo on a new deal because he's just coming off the back of his probably his best season in his career. So you want to see that continue.
I know Aidan's firmly behind the Bring Back Moussa Dembele campaign, but Brown Warrior coming in saying Celtic need to sign a proven European level striker for the Champions League. And Marquis thinks that O's ready to play now. He would say, are you behind the Dembele coming back, Ryan, or is that boat sailed? You just happy to let that one go and keep the memories of Dembele the way he was?
I think now a lot of people say, "Oh, it's never as good the second time." I'm hoping that's not the case with Brendan Rodgers coming back to the club. There's always that worry, but I don't think the two of them are in the best sort of relationship, Dembele and Brendan Rodgers. I'll cast your mind back to 2019 when Dembele orchestrated his move, or that was the sort of narrative that was getting spun on the Celtic side of things. But remember, he was all over his social media. He was one of the first players to sort of publicly come out and talk about a move. Remember, he was one of the big examples of that at the end of the summer transfer window. It obviously came out with Rodgers leaving in the February, who was the sort of bad guy out of the two, or so it seemed like. But I think both sides were to blame in that whole mess. I don't know if that relationship can be mended, but I mean, if he's available, I mean, he's on a free transfer. I don't know about his wages. He'll be wanting a pretty penny for his services, but if he could get him back, he would, wouldn't he? It's Moussa Dembele. He's a better player than when he left, and he's just got that aura. Could you imagine a front two of Dembele and Kyogo? That would be
I am
incredible.
imagining that. That's why I'm smiling and laughing. John Curry coming in. Brendan Rodgers won't bring Dembele back.
Nah,
Robert
I don't
Gibson,
think so.
Dembele won't go near Rodgers. Plunge McNugget. Celtic can't afford Dembele wages. And Brown Warrior saying Dembele's an obvious one because he's out of contract. But I think lots of people are erring on the romantic side of it. And if Jamie Young says if Celtic don't sign Kyogo, give Dembele a new contract as soon as possible. And Michael Ross, Dembele ain't coming back. Put that to bed, please. It'll come out in the wash. I guess it's a talker, isn't it? Andrew Murphy, there's no way Moussa will be back. Same with Foster. Celtic will be looking forward. And Brown Warrior saying Brendan Rodgers wasn't coming back 3 weeks ago. So yeah, lots of different opinion on this one. Chill Pill saying no chance of Dembele as he and Rodgers don't get on. And Derek Crawford making a point that the club will not break the wage cap for Dembele, but I think there's lots of pros and cons with it, Ryan, isn't there? You get an improved Dembele if Celtic can afford it, if it was mutually agreeable to both parties, and those kind of fences could be mended, and see what happened in the past, and if it was agreeable to everybody, then it wouldn't be such a bad idea. But Celtic have got two cracking strikers. Do we need another striker at the club? For possibly we do. To go into the Champions League, would Moussa Dembele score goals in the Champions League? That remains to be seen as well, doesn't it? But I think everybody who watched Moussa Dembele when he was with Rodgers at Celtic loved him. Thought he was a brilliant striker and was a big game player. He did turn up in lots of big games. So I say there's lots of pros for that. The cons weighing up the negatives as well. But it remains to be seen if Rodgers will go for Dembele. He is out of contract. Interesting, Everton at last I saw, Ryan.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting one. I know that Everton have been linked with a couple of Scottish-based or previously Scottish-based players. Yeah, they're in a really interesting position with regards to their recruitment. I just think there's two ways you can look at it. You'd be bringing in a great player in the prime of his career. Yes,
Yep.
He would score goals. Yes, he's proven that. He was the top goal scorer in his first season at the club. I think he scored, 32 goals in his first season, or round about that ballpark in all competitions, because he scored a few in the Champions League. You'd be bringing in a Champions League goal scorer as well. He scored I'm sure he scored against Man City, or he played against Man City.
He scored against Man City in the 3 each game,
I was actually thinking of when he played against Lyon as well, when he was at Lyon against Man City. Remember when they had that sort of tournament, and I think it was Munich during the COVID season, or during the end of the COVID season. I'm sure he beat Man City on the way to their sort of I think it was a semi-final place that Lyon got. But if you look at the other side of it as well, and I think that Celtic have got to be mindful of this, I don't think you'd be getting a profit for Dembele if he left the club as well, because he's in that sort of prime of his career. If you wanted him to stay for 2 or 3 seasons, then he's getting to that age that I don't think you'd be selling him on for a healthy profit. So he'd be there purely for results on the pitch rather than a profit off the pitch. It's an interesting one. If both parties were okay with it, then if both parties were fine with it, then I'd be all for it. But I think there's just too much red tape there for him, unfortunately, and you can enjoy the memories that you had with him before, and I think that brings his sort of mystique as well. The fact that he was there for the 2 seasons, then he left. He stays as a bit of a cult hero rather than a bona fide hero.
I think if it were to happen, judging from lots of the comments coming in, I think, and the Celtic supporters feeling towards him, he would be welcomed back with open arms, wouldn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's such a fan favourite. I think it helps his social media content as well. He always gets involved with Celtic-related things. I'm not sure how much of that is actually him. I think it's his agent sort of keeping the keeping the positive vibes between the two. It's an interesting one. I would obviously have him back, but at the same time, it's got to work for both parties, and I think it would benefit Dembele more than it would benefit Celtic in a lot of ways in terms of getting a profit in a couple of years' time. I think Celtic have got to, if they're going to be serious about this model, then they've got to stick with it, in my opinion.
Yes. Derek Smith saying bringing ex-players back never really works. That's fair enough. That's a fair comment. Fair. Sometimes you mentioned it as well, didn't you? That going back for a second spell, but you said it. You hope it doesn't work. You hope it doesn't count this time with the manager, because we've just brought an ex-manager back. So hopefully that doesn't apply to Rodgers. But there's all sorts of. And the thing is, with Rodgers leaving Leicester, there's all sorts of links, isn't there, Ryan, to ex-Leicester players? I think there's a list of 8 players. Guys like Ndidi and Amartey have been mentioned, haven't they? Jamie Vardy as well. I mean, is that just natural because of he's worked with those guys recently and a couple of them are out of contract and people again putting 2 and 2 together and just using that kind of link? Or do you see them as any real possibilities? We spoke off air and you spoke about Amartey, but you said Ndidi and Vardy were non-starters for you.
Yeah. I think Ndidi and Jamie Vardy are non-starters for different reasons. Jamie Vardy's 36, 37 years old now. I think he's lost his legs in the past couple of years, and I know he can still do a job up in Scotland, but I think we should be pushing for a higher level than that, in my opinion. If we're going to be challenging in the Champions League group stages, I don't think Jamie Vardy is at that level anymore. I think he's high-end Championship, low Premier League, which in some ways isn't even good enough for Celtic, I wouldn't say. In terms of Ndidi's getting linked to Saudi Arabia. Now, 2-3 years ago, Ndidi was one of the highest rated defensive midfielders in the Premier League. He's had a bad couple of seasons at Leicester. I've watched him personally in Leicester games, and I'm like, you need out of here. He's a player that just needed to escape Leicester for a bigger move. I think if the Saudi money comes in, he'll take it, and he'll sort of support his family for the rest of his life if he takes that money. I don't think he would go to Celtic, not at this stage in his career. Amartey is an interesting one. I could see that one happening because he's a free transfer and he's a bit of jack of all trades. He can play in defensive midfield, he can play in the centre-back position. I think he can also play right-back. He's been in and out of the Leicester team during Brendan Rodgers' tenure, but he got a lot more games this season due to injuries that happened. I know that Leicester lost Johnny Evans. They also lost Ricardo Pereira due to injuries. A lot of their downfall this last season was down to injuries. They lost key players in key positions, so they had to put sort of stopgaps in certain positions, and that maybe sort of contributed to their downfall to the Championship, obviously, this season. But I think if the wages could be sorted out, then Amartey could be a smart signing, and he would do a job for 2-3 years because he's got the experience. He's been there since 2016, I think, at least. Yeah. So that would be an interesting one. I do like him as a player, and I think he would stroll it up in Scotland, to be fair.
Tim and on saying Celtic don't need players that can do a job. Celtic need players that will excel. Well, I'm hoping the manager thinks like that as well. They have many players who have excelled for the past 2 seasons. Now, here's one from Megan Horn. If I can find it. Megan said that Celtic should never have allowed Georgios Giakoumakis to leave. And people are saying, yeah, that's true. Other commenters have come in and said that, yeah, that's true. Now, how did you feel about that? Megan's come back and saying Giakoumakis is brilliant, a warrior and a goal scorer. Were you sad to see him go? Have Celtic moved on? Is it a case of he's gone, forget it, let's go somewhere else?
I wasn't gutted when he left, I'll be honest, because I'd heard the rumours for a wee while that he wanted to sort of get an increase in his wages or he would be off. I just think it was very clear when Ange Postecoglou was the manager that Kyogo was the number one choice. Yeah. And Kyogo fitted the system better than Giakoumakis did, because when you played Giakoumakis, you had to change it up because Giakoumakis' passing was terrible. Sometimes his first touch was a nightmare as well, with Kyogo, you don't have that problem. He can get involved in the build-up play. Yes, if you wanted a goal late on, you could bring Giakoumakis on, and I'm sure if you started him, then he'd provide the goods up front as a target man. But the fact is, he wanted to leave at the end of the day because of his game time. Postecoglou could not guarantee him that game time, and therefore a move came in. He's tearing it up in the MLS just now with Atlanta, but I just think it was the right time to cash in on him and bring in a younger player in O. I think it's just a better move when you look at it. O actually had a better start to his Celtic career than Giakoumakis did. I know Giakoumakis had injuries and he was trying to get up to full fitness and he had setbacks, but O scored 6 or 7 goals in his first 7 6 or 7 goals in his first 6 months at the club. I mean, Giakoumakis was struggling until the January time, so it's one of those ones where I think we've only seen the start of O's career. He's only 22. There's more upside, and with Giakoumakis, yes, he did score goals, but I think it was the right time to cash in on him. And I'm sure he's got a great life over in Atlanta. He might even have another move in him if he does keep on doing well in the MLS. But best of luck to him. But I think it was the right time for both parties because it was clear he wasn't going to get the game time that he wanted. So I'm glad the resolution was found between the two parties.
Any other areas of the park, Ryan, that you feel could do with strengthening, or Brendan Rodgers could do with strengthening?
I think left back, like we've touched upon earlier, is an interesting one. I think on the other side, Johnson looks like a perfect fit for a Brendan Rodgers team. He just gives me some of the stuff that Alistair Johnson does just reminds me of Kieran Tierney, the way he runs with the ball, the aggression he's got in the tackle. Rodgers will love that. And Johnson, I think Johnson will go to a whole new level under Brendan Rodgers. It's going to be very, very interesting to see his progress in the next 12 months under the new manager. So I'm just wondering if Rodgers will want the same down the left-hand side for more a traditional left back. I know we would never get Kieran Tierney back. He looks to be going elsewhere, but it won't be Celtic. But somebody, I think we need a more robust left back that can put himself about. Greg Taylor's done a great job over the past 2 seasons in that inverted role, but it all depends on whether or not Brendan Rodgers keeps that up. I know he kind of flirted with the idea of playing an inverted fullback at Leicester before injuries stopped him from doing so. The guys that were coming in to replace Pereira, as I previously mentioned, just could not do the job that he was scheduling him to do that season. So if he does go with more traditional fullbacks, then I'd maybe see a left back coming in. But if he does play inverted, then I can't think of many better than Greg Taylor because he's done so well in that position. It all really depends on how we set up. But I'm sure the first pre-season games will be very, very interesting to see how we line up formationally.
Naughty boy Kearney comes in and says Celtic need another keeper, a defender, and one more centre forward, which is what we've kind of been discussing. And Marquis comes in and says Celtic need a new goalkeeper, a new left back, a new centre back, 2 midfielders, a winger, and a centre forward. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players. Marquis, do you honestly believe Celtic need 7 players? Are those players not already there? I think we need.
What I would say to counter that is that there very well could be players that leave in the summer, and therefore you need to supplement those positions with new talent. I'm just wondering if the commenter means that's what we need at the start, or that's what we would need with regards to if big players were to leave, like a midfielder. Would we need a midfielder if Hatate stays? If he goes, we would obviously need to replace him. Maybe that's already happening in Odin Holm. I know he got nominated to the Golden Boy Award yesterday. That's a really big accolade for a young player like him. So it seems as if we're signing a really good prospect. That looks like that deal looks like as if it's basically done. We're just waiting on him finishing his holiday. It looks like, and then he'll be announced as a Celtic player. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what positions get strengthened, because it might not even be numbers that we need. It's just quality that we need in certain positions. Yes, we've got really good players in there to begin with, but if there's better players that are available, then Celtic should be striving for that. Celtic should always be striving for better players, and you might need to step on toes to do that.
See, he came back and says he's been saying it for months, Tony, and I agreed with a couple of weeks ago. I agree we need new players. I'm not sure if we need 7 new players, but again, I'll go back to what Ryan says. If there's comings and goings, then we'll need players to be replaced. But I think Brendan Rodgers is inheriting a wonderful squad. I've said that as well. And there's not wholesale change needed, just a few tweaks here and there. But Blake one scene, get rid of Deadwood, need a goalkeeper, a left back, a right back, a centre back, central defensive midfielder, a right winger, and a centre forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 again. 3, 4, 5, 6,
Wow.
7 players. Yeah. I mean, I guess a lot of these opinions depend on who leaves the club in the summer. I'm basing it on that because at this moment in time, I don't think Celtic are going to sign 7 new players, are they, Ryan?
It's an interesting one. At this point, I wouldn't expect it, but with the way that players leave,
keep everybody. I mean,
if you keep everybody, then I don't think you need another 7 players. That's an overflow of talent. You see that with Chelsea down south, how bad that is. You've got so many players in the one training ground. It's just so difficult to maintain. So you need to sort of balance the books. I think it's inevitable that players will leave, whether that be because they're just not getting game time or a good offer comes in for them. You look at guys like Turnbull that's only got a year left. Do we cash in? Does Rodgers like him and then give him an extension? Does he sign the extension? There's all these scenarios that come in. And it's exciting because, it's a new dynamic under a new manager. I know we've had him previously, but he'll have his own ideas for this squad. Players that maybe weren't fancied under Postecoglou might get a second chance under Brendan Rodgers. So it's a clean slate for a lot of players, and I think that'll go a long way into deciding what players stay and what players go.
Stephen Ray, Celtic got 2 points from 18 in the Champions League last season, so Celtic's best 11 isn't as good as people think. For me, they need upgrades at goalkeeper, centre back, left back, central defensive midfielder, and right winger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players he wants coming in now. With Brendan Rodgers getting an alleged 30 million or 35 million to spend, supposedly in the transfer market, that's not to say he won't bring in that amount of players. I fully understand that. So it remains to be seen what the managers will do. Megan Horn come back and says, want quality over quantity. That's what you always want, Megan. I totally agree with that. I think there's lots of quality there. If you can keep the quality that's there, the same way you did with the backroom staff for that continuity purposes, Ryan, then I don't think you'll need too many players, but I was thinking the 3 I was thinking was a goalkeeper, a centre back, and a robust central defensive midfielder, and possibly a forward. So I guess that's 4. As many as 7, I'm not so sure, but again, that will depend on who stays and who goes. And Markey is saying, excuse me, keep Jota, Hatate, Hart, Maeda, Anthony Johnson, Iwata, Haksabanovic and O'Reilly, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Starfelt, and the main Scots, and he's replacing the rest with first teamers. Listen, everybody's entitled to their opinion. If Celtic needs 7 new players, then so be it. And the manager feels he needs 7 new players, he will go out and hopefully get them. I just think that might be a wee bit. I'm trying to be a wee bit more optimistic with the players that are there, and I think he's inheriting a wonderful situation with a wonderful squad of players, and I think Brendan Rodgers can take them to that level and improve them. Then you'll reap the benefits of that, Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such an advantage, the fact that we've got such a good foundation with regards to the squad that Postecoglou has left. As of yet, he's not came in and poached any of these players. He's tried to poach some of the backroom staff, but they're staying where they are. Hopefully, it's the same for the players, that they all stay. Or if they go, then we get a good transfer fee. But we'll get a solid foundation. I'm wanting to be in the position where we only need to strengthen in areas rather than replace. If we can just supplement the squad with a couple of real first team players that can make the difference in Europe, whether that be in the Champions League group stages until Christmas time, or then further on in either competition, either the Champions League, get to the last 16, it'll be a great season. But if we were to then go on a run, get third place in the Europa and in Europe in the Champions League group stage and go into the Europa League, you want players that can come in and make a difference in those games, because a lot of these games are on a knife edge. If you sign a good goalkeeper that can make big saves in the big moments, they can keep you in the tie. If if you sign a striker that knows where the goal is, especially at a high level in Europe, then that can be the difference between taking a game to extra time or winning the tie outright. It's one of those ones where if you've got those players there and you've recruited well, then they will make the difference in the long term in Europe. But it's all about finding them. If we find them and they're available for us, then I'm all for it.
And Mark, you're saying 30 million in Champions League terms is nothing, but it's still a lot for a club like Celtic to spend, considering they do work within financial parameters. You know, it's not a lot when you consider it to the English Premier League millions that clubs have got to spend. We get that, but it's still a huge budget for a club like Celtic, and that has to be invested wisely, Ryan. As you say, on those players who will make a difference. Goalkeepers that save you and can earn you Champions League group points, midfielder or even a striker that can score goals and earn you those points. So that's been the difference with Celtic in the Champions League last year, certainly, and in seasons gone past. We've just lacked that quality that's required to take you to that, as I keep saying, the next level and the levels that Rodgers wanted to take the club to in his first stint. So he's clearly thinking that with this current team and a couple of players that he's identified clearly, you know, however many that may be, then that's achievable. You know, Danny Boy coming in saying Europa League is ambition. I think Celtic can go far in the Europa League with the proviso that they drop into that. I still want to target the last 16, last 8 of the Champions League. I want to go as far as I can in that and see if they can make a fist of that. But failing that, if they drop down into the Europa League, then I'll say it now. I want to get to the final, Ryan. I want to do it. You know, why can't they do
the
it?
final?
Yeah,
want to win the final as well.
And why can't a club like Celtic do that?
I've seen teams that aren't even as good as Celtic's current squad get to finals. So I don't see why they can't make that. I think it's all about breaking that sort of cycle that we've got with regards to knockout games. I think there's a psychological thing when we go to knockout games. I don't know if it's like an inferiority complex or something, or a timidness when we play in these knockout games. I definitely seen that against Bodo Glimt. We just looked lost in that. And I think if we consistently get to knockout ties, then eventually that trend will break and we'll start a new trend, hopefully being successful in these ties. Because once you've got one, then you can build upon that. That's a solid foundation. And you can win multiple and get in the sort of swing of things. But we've got to break that first one. Like I've talked about before on this briefing, it'd be great for me to actually see us winning a knockout tie, because I can't physically remember us winning a knockout tie. Like I don't have a memory in my head of that. I know it happened when I was alive, but I don't have that. Maybe I wasn't as into Celtic when I was like 5 years old with regards to when I'm 25 just now. So that's the amount of time it's taken. I would just like to see that, and I'd like to see us sort of. I'd like to see our ambitions getting heightened in Europe, and it seems as if that's the sort of noise that the board are making and the managers are making. So I'd like to see that followed through.
Danny Boy saying he's booking up for Dublin today.
That's where the Europa League final is next year.
Yeah, and Davey Orr saying bring back big ears to the trophy room. And Sons of Scotland saying a very complimentary thing, hit the thumbs up button, it helps the channel. It most certainly does. So appreciate that, Sons of Scotland. That's very kind. Now, that's almost a first half. And Mark Taylor was asking when the draw was being made for the Champions League, and Patrick McLaughlin told him 31st of August, Mark, and that's true. It is the 31st of August. The draw for the group stages of the Champions League will be made then. Lots of time to talk, lots of things Celtic before then, players coming in, players going out, the tour of Japan and South Korea, pre-season friendlies, you name it. Brendan Rodgers putting his stamp on the side. We'll be covering it all over the summer. Ryan, thank you for your contribution today. Guys, thanks for the comments. Try and read as many out as we can. Hopefully the microphone's working and everything's all cushy and above board and you can hear us clearly. We enjoy the the comments. As I say, we like to gather your thoughts on what you think about the team and who they should sign. And I think it's just exciting times ahead. I want the seasons to start now. I really do. I miss my fix of football, getting it with the internationals and stuff. And we say well done to Callum McGregor. We meant to talk about Callum, but we just kind of got caught away or caught up in talking about the
What
team.
is there to say? We've probably already said that about 10 times.
Yes.
Captain, fantastic. He's like a captain on that pitch for Scotland as well. They've got quite a few leaders on that pitch, but I think Cal McGregor's one of the leaders as well. You can see a lot of players really feed off of him, so well done to him. But it's what we expect from him now. He's just brilliant.
Indeed. Thank you, John. Yes, I think Paddy's taking a wee Maddie in the garden as we speak. I hope that's not spoiling your enjoyment. Hi, right, Tony. I don't know what Kevin Fair is referring to there, but hey, fair enough. Danny Boy, good discussion, boys. Davey O'Raw, hail, Tony Naden. Michael Ross, hail, enjoy your days. And yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful Wednesday, guys. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. Thursday, 10 o'clock-ish. And great show again, says Jerry O'Rourke. Bring on the start of another treble season. That's what we hope. And Thomas Muirhead saying last night Cal Mack showed why he should be Scotland captain. And Paul Diet saying feedback's gone. Tony sounds so much better. That's great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Sons of Scotland, great chat, lads. Thank you. Guys, as I say, thanks for your comments. Tremendous. And if you like us, then why not take out a subscription? And you'll help support top quality football journalism covering the club you love. All you have to do is visit or hit the button www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Thank you so much to everybody. Hopefully, give you all a mention tomorrow, the ones that I haven't mentioned. Ryan, top man, thanks very much, sir. See you all again tomorrow. Take care.
Cheers, guys.